Mr. Igor Lupeltsov, Head of the National Environmental Investment Agency of Ukraine. Mr. Lupeltsov, you have the floor.
Madam President, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for me to address you on behalf of the Ukrainian government. First of all, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to the government of the Kingdom of Denmark for organizing this very important international event. Ukraine fully supports the efforts of the international community aimed at ensuring mitigation of the man-made impact on climate change. Ukraine supports the implementation of effective measures on adaptation of environmental economic systems to climate change. Ukraine also supports the signing of a legally binding international agreement to continue to develop the main principles of the UNFCCC. Article 4.6 of the Convention provides a certain degree of flexibility to the countries with economies in transition. We'd like to see this principle reflected in future international agreements on climate change. We'd also like to point out that countries with economies in transition are among the few countries which have already overshot the targets set by the Convention. For Ukraine, the cumulative reduction of greenhouse gas emissions in the period of 1990-2007 was approximately 7 billion tons of CO2 equivalent. Therefore, the issue of quantitative emission reduction targets in countries with economies in transition should be resolved on a differentiated basis with the full analysis of national circumstances of individual countries. At the same time, even amongst countries with economies in transition, Ukraine is in a special position. The situation in Ukraine after the disintegration of the USSR is in its scope something that can be compared to a man-made catastrophe. Ukraine inherited an extremely unbalanced energy sector, industry, agriculture, and economy as a whole. During 5 years, 1990-1995, our GDP was reduced about twofold and is about 70% of 1990 level today. Since 1990, the population of our country has declined by more than 11%. Currently, per capita GDP in Ukraine is almost 12 times lower than average per capita GDP in other Annex I countries and lower than in many developing countries. And despite the high carbon intensity of Ukrainians' GDP, GHG emissions per capita in Ukraine are 1.5 times lower than in other Annex I countries. In order to reduce the carbon intensity of our economy, we have to carry out a fundamental restructuring and large-scale modernization of the energy sector, of our industry, agriculture, and other sectors of the economy, which requires time and financial resources. Ukraine needs to revamp its economy and improve its demographical situation and reach world levels of global GDP. At the same time, realizing the importance of anthropogenic impact on the climate, Ukraine is ready to take the commitment to reduce by 20% its GHG emissions by 2020 and 50% by 2050 compared to the baseline of 1990. Today, Ukraine holds a leading position in the practical implementation of the flexible mechanisms of the Kyoto Protocol. We do, of course, support their continuation and further development. The implementation of existing mechanisms and the creation of new ones could serve as an additional financial source that will allow countries with economies in transition to confidently follow the path of sustainable development. I hope that our joint efforts will be successful and timely, and they will allow us to pass on to future generations a safe and healthy planet. Thank you very much.